A very good evening to you. Tonight, Kenya's neighbor to the northwest stands on the brink as campaigners accuse the international community of dragging its feet in saving the young nation.
Just 3 years after declaring independence from the north, South Sudan now faces what aid workers call the worst single atrocity since the civil war broke out last December.
The massacre of hundreds of civilians in the oil city of Bentiu has shocked the world, with the UN describing the incident as a game changer in the civil war.
Tonight, we put a spotlight on South Sudan, where the latest killings are said to be based on ethnicity and fueled by hate speeches on radio.
Our special coverage starts right now. Now, it is a massacre that has shocked the world, but no decisive action appears to be on its way yet.
Human rights organizations now say the death toll in South Sudan could have reached 10,000 following the latest killings in the oil town of Bentiu.
Pressure is also piling on the African Union to step in immediately and save its newest member. KTN's Bentui begins our coverage tonight. Bodies spread along the streets. The smell of death and devastation is in the air. A new wave of violence in Bentiu state has left hundreds of civilians dead. It is reported that unarmed civilians who had sought refuge at a mosque, a church, and a local hospital became the latest victims of the mass killings today. They were killed along tribal lines and in cold blood. Before the attacks, some rebel commanders are said to have broadcasted hate messages on local radio, warning certain groups to leave town and even calling on men from one community to commit vengeful sexual violent acts against women from another community. At one hospital, men, women and children who refused to cheer the rebels were killed in the mass murder that has now been described as the most horrific and shocking in recent times. For those who survived the vicious attacks, life is unbearable. A dire humanitarian situation is calling for urgent attention. No water, no food. According to the United Nations, thousands of civilians are now streaming to the UN base in Bentiu, fearing that the killings will continue. The cramped base that holds 25,000 people has very little water and just one latrine for every 350 people. Further reports indicate that young men and even children are now increasingly joining the White Army, affiliated with the Nuer tribe, in a so-called revenge mission.
We are not brothers because of what they have done. Your brother will not kill you. They are killing even girls.
Some of these child soldiers or some of these young boys are very bitter because they lost some of their relatives. Fathers were killed, mothers were killed, and as a result, they decided to take up arms to carry out revenge on government forces.
What began as a political power struggle in South Sudan quickly assumed an ethnic dimension, pitting President Salva Kiir's Dinka tribe against former Vice President Riek Machar's Nuer people. Riek Machar has since refuted claims that his soldiers are behind the killings in Bentiu. The White House today released a statement urging Kiir and Machar to initiate dialogue to end the violence. Other countries are still weighing whether to send troops to the war-torn country. The fighting broke out in the world's youngest state late last year after President Kiir accused his former deputy Machar of plotting a coup. So far, thousands have been killed and more than 1 million displaced from their homes. Bentui, KTN.